try not to drag this on and provide a brief overview of the facts. My wife and I have been together 8 years and married for 4 now. We have 2 kids and a house together, and we both work full-time. We have had a good relationship up until a year ago when I found out she kissed another guy while she was out with her friends that she occasionally goes out drinking and partying with. They are mostly single, and I believe she is the only married one out of the group. I've never been super comfortable with her being with that same group of friends since then. Ever since that incident, she has had her location on so we could have a sort of trust, since that was broken previously. Since then, I have been paranoid about this broken trust, and I feel like it's affected me pretty poorly. Fast forward to tonight, when she went to get her nails done around 6 p.m. Then while she was there, she texted me telling me her friends wanted her to have drinks and catch up. I put our kids to bed, and while I was in bed, I decided to check in and make sure everything was okay. I pulled up her location before going to sleep and noticed she was moving away from where she said she was. I immediately texted and asked what was going on, and she said, "I have to move my car so I don't get charged," which seemed odd because she was moving away from where she was supposedly at. I asked where she was going, and she replied, "I'm going to drive my friend home soon to her mom's house," which I found strange because that friend lives within walking distance of where my wife was hanging out earlier. I then called and asked, "Where are you going?" And she stumbled a bit and said, hold on," and I could hear whispers in the background. She reiterated the story about the friend's mom's house. I waited a few minutes and checked again, and noticed she was in a strange neighborhood. Not where that friend's mom used to live. I had been there a long time ago. I proceeded to call her on the phone, and I could not get any answer for about 15 to 20 minutes. I looked up the address she was at, and it popped up with her ex's name. My stomach and heart sank. She eventually called and said she was on the way, with the same story as before. While all this was transpiring, 2 of those friends texted me, strange, as they don't ever message me, trying to cover for my wife. She got home and set some grocery bags from Target down and went to bed. She said she got some stuff for me and the kids, so I looked after she went to bed, and the receipt showed 2 charges for bralettes among other things, but these bras weren't in the bag. She's in bed, and I've been up drinking. I'm not sure where to go from here. I feel broken and betrayed. I'm not perfect, and I'm the first to admit that. I would never commit infidelity, and I just feel betrayed. For me and my kids' sake, everything I do is for them, as I'm the major breadwinner and support most of the household. Thanks for any feedback or advice in advance. Now for an update. I woke her up at about 5 a.m., confronted her, and she still continues to deny she did anything bad. Only when I showed her a screenshot of the property records where she was at, coming up with her ex's information, did she respond with, "So?" Because I don't want the kids hearing us talk. It has just been texting back and forth. She's asking me whether she should move out, or if I should. I am worried about saying anything before talking to a lawyer, so I haven't yet. To add, I really appreciate all the replies and comments. Genuinely, they have been helpful, as I have never been one to run to friends and family in my personal life to talk about family and marital issues. There hasn't been much going on other than both of us being silent, chores, and a few messages back and forth. She did say we should have some space, and she swears she's never slept with anyone since we've been together. No proof to the contrary has been provided. She posted on Facebook already looking for a place in early September. Then she told me her grandmother, who lives out of town now, but raised her, will come here and they can share a place. Nothing is certain yet, and her finances are pretty poor. To clear up a few details in no order, my wife never met her dad, and her mom was hurtful and in and out of her life throughout most of her childhood. We both suffer from different mental health issues that we've seen doctors for. My wife has always been a drinker, but normally not a heavy or belligerent drinker. She'd maybe overdo it 1 to 2 times a year. Up until recently, she is on new medications and drinking more, which she should not be doing. Not that any of this justifies any infidelity or lying. I just wanted to provide more info. I've done some research on lawyers, and will reach out on Monday. Now for an update. I talked to a lawyer briefly over the phone. Not a bunch of information, but he said I should try to do an uncontested agreement if my wife would agree to mutual terms. We will need to sit down and come to an agreement on everything: separation, custody, etc. I would hope we could agree on everything, so we will see. We need to find out how her moving out is going to work. Haven't talked about it yet. Sorry if this section may be all over the place, as today has been rough trying to work on little sleep. This morning, I texted my parents about what's happening and that my wife cheated, and of course, they had their own opinions. I tried to get it out of her this morning about what she did, but still nothing. She said, "I know how it looks, so there's no point arguing. I was only there for 20 minutes. She is staying firm, saying she hasn't slept with anyone. I know I just can't believe her. I wish she would just admit what she did so I can find closure." My wife has been going out with my mom a couple of times since then. I think she's trying to get her on her side, but I don't know. She also told me that she's going to stop drinking for 30 days after everything went down. She started drinking again tonight. She left her WebEx chat for her job open on her laptop. While she was out with my mom, I snooped and saw that she has plans to see her ex for drinks in a movie-type situation. Great. This was planned before all this happened. Not that it matters at this point. On top of this, it seems she is trying to be nice and made me dinner, hugged me, and did things like that. It just feels weird. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'd be angry. I've been in that exact situation, and it didn't work out in the end. I'm not saying your wife is doing what my ex did, but it really doesn't sound good. She better have a good explanation, or else it's going to eat at you and drive you to conclusions that aren't the best for a healthy relationship for either party. I'm sorry to hear this, and I really feel for you. I feel like you have a pretty good idea of what's going on. Being friends with an ex is never good for a relationship. I don't know what the best way to approach this is besides talking with her, but she needs to be honest for it to work out. It's the worst feeling. I'm sorry. I wish you the best, honestly. Also, drinking isn't going to help. It'll make you angrier just thinking about it. I'm nobody to tell you what to do, but it always hurts me and my relationship worse. Comment 2. Dude, first, I'm sorry. This is awful. You can either wake your wife and confront her now or wait until the morning. You are going to tell her to leave. Do not listen to any more lies from her, because that's what they are. This has happened multiple times that you know of. Who knows what you don't know about? Your wife was getting her nails done for the date she went on with her ex tonight. She didn't hang out with her friends. Get her out of your house. And I know you have kids, but you need to file for divorce and never look back. There is somebody out there who won't do this to you. Stonewall the hell out of her, and you be the one to tell her it's over. There is nothing left to salvage. She might even be trying to force you to do it. Make sure all family and friends know the reason, and do not let her set the narrative. Update me. Now for the update. 3 days after the confrontation, I was still a wreck and couldn't stop thinking about what happened. We were in this confusing situation of not really knowing where we stood, and the idea of separation was always on my mind. My parents, bless their hearts, invited us to a family barbecue to celebrate my mom's birthday. I wasn't really in the mood, but I figured it might help keep some normalcy for the kids, so I reluctantly agreed. When we got there, the atmosphere was just, ugh. It was like everyone knew something was up, but didn't want to say it. I noticed my wife was texting a lot under the table, which added to my discomfort. The kids were in the backyard playing and seemed completely oblivious to the fact that their parents were a mess. I overheard my wife laughing at something on her phone, and honestly, it just made me feel worse. Like, how can she be so happy when our whole world is falling apart? During dinner, my dad, trying to lighten the mood, I guess, jokingly asked us what our plans were for the future. My wife was still glued to her phone, but then she got a text that made her smile. That raised my suspicions even more. After dinner, I stepped away to check on the kids and found them happily playing with their cousins. When I went back inside, I caught my wife whispering to her phone and laughing again, but this time it was more obvious. My younger sister came up to me and asked how things were going between us. I just shrugged it off. I didn't want to drag my family into our mess. Later, while cleaning up, I accidentally found my wife's phone on the table. I picked it up to hand it to her, but then a notification from a messaging app caught my eye. Curiosity got the better of me, and I checked the messages. What I saw made my stomach drop. There were ongoing conversations with her ex, filled with inside jokes and plans to meet up. I was still reeling from what I saw when my wife walked in and caught me red-handed. An argument broke out and family members started to notice. She insisted it was harmless, just them catching up. Yeah, right, I was done. I decided to leave the barbecue with the kids. My wife tried to stop me, but I said we needed to talk privately later. The car ride home was quiet, and I could feel my heart racing, thinking about what I had to confront her about. After putting the kids to bed, we sat down and I laid everything out on the table. I told her I saw the messages and I wanted to know what was going on. She tried to deflect and said I was overreacting, claiming it was just friendly communication. Really? I proposed a temporary separation to figure things out. She agreed but insisted it wasn't necessary, claiming she was still committed to our marriage. The next day, I decided to reach out to her ex on social media. I wanted to know what was going on and if anything was happening. The ex responded quickly, saying they've been chatting but nothing more. I figured I should meet the guy in person to get more info. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop where I felt I could get straight answers. When I met the ex, he was friendly but honest about their past and current feelings. He said my wife had been vague about her intentions, but it sounded like she was leading him on. I went home and confronted my wife again, armed with the information I gathered. She was taken aback by my determination and finally admitted to feeling conflicted. I proposed a divorce. I told her it was better for both of us and that we needed to prioritize the kids. The conversation ended with both of us agreeing to think about our options moving forward. To answer a few questions, my wife and I have been living separately for a week. The kids are unaware of everything. Am I the idiot for leaving my selfish partner after they made me care for our sick child while I was also sick? I got infection 19 3 days ago and it literally felt like I was hit by a truck. I had terrible body aches, it was hard to breathe, still is, and my throat hurt. My partner was still working, so I powered through how awful I was feeling to take care of my 3-year-old daughter. Once my partner was done with work, I put my daughter in her room for quiet time and passed out in bed. An hour later, my partner woke me up to get our daughter out of her room. I felt like absolute crap and immediately burst into tears. This annoyed my partner, and they said, "Just say you're too sick to watch her. You don't have to cry." I kept trying to explain that I was crying because of how sick I felt, but I was also just confused why they would wake me up in the first place when they already knew I was really sick. I ended up going back to bed, but feeling guilty about it since they were irritated about me crying and having to watch our daughter. I slept maybe 3 hours and then went back into mom mode. Over the next few days, I've still been sick, and our daughter got sick. I watched our daughter all day while she was sick, even when my partner was done with work. I've been barely getting sleep between drowning in my own snot and having to stay up with my daughter. I've been watching her, feeding my partner, taking care of the pets, and trying my best to clean up. But since I'm still not feeling my best, I'm behind on the chores. I keep telling myself I'll get to the chores when I'm feeling a bit better, because everything is making me feel winded. Like I can't even do the dishes without feeling like I'm gasping for breath. My partner finally got sick today, and of course they're in bed and plan to be all day, which is fine with me. They're sick. It's just the imbalance that's really bothering me. I didn't get to rest when I was sick. I've been the caretaker for everyone, but nobody takes care of me. I'm trying not to let it get to my head, but it makes me sad. Last night I was up with my daughter until 4 o'clock in the morning. My partner, who is 26 years old, woke me up this morning saying they're now sick and want me to pick up some things from the store for them. Since I still have infection 19, I placed a contactless pickup order at the grocery store. I came back home with their stuff, and mind you, I'm still sick and feeling terrible. I'm putting away groceries when they came downstairs wrapped up in a blanket to get their drink I got them. The first thing out of their mouth isn't thank you. It's, are you gonna take out the trash? When are you going to vacuum? It felt patronizing. I didn't say anything, but they could probably tell I was irritated. I'm 26 years old and just confused about what I could be doing differently here. Am I just supposed to power through and be super mom? Am I being childish? Do I need to suck it up and just get all the chores done? Context. My partner works from home. They usually work from 10 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening. Most of the time they sleep in and start later than 10 o'clock in the morning. To add, wow, I was not expecting so many responses to my post. I apologize for not engaging in the comments. I am still sick and haven't had a chance to read them all yet. But I am hearing what you guys are telling me, and it's a lot to process. I have so much to think about and reconsider. And I really need to talk to a friend I can trust about this because, man, I do not know what to do now. I know I'm naive, but I genuinely did not know that the way I've been treated is wrong. I think I carry a lot of guilt from my past, and I tell myself I deserve it. I could write a lot of positive things about my partner to defend them, but I'm realizing and questioning that maybe they just don't love me like they used to, which is devastating and a whole other thing I need to now process. I just really need to find a therapist or someone I can trust to talk to, because trying to work this out in my head is not working. I just feel very confused and lost. I've been in this relationship since I was 19. It's all I've ever known in my adult life. I don't know what else to say, but thank you to everyone for opening my eyes, for telling me I need to recognize my worth and realize I shouldn't be treated like this, and for just taking the time to respond to this. I will try to make an update once I get my head straight and talk to a therapist. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I ended up going back to bed, but felt guilty about it since they were irritated about me crying and having to watch our daughter. Stop feeling guilty because your partner has to be a parent. You should have stayed in bed the next day. It may have required him to take off work, but that's life. You are making it easy for him not to step up. Comment 2. Rest as much as you can. Forget vacuuming. This is why women are particularly vulnerable to long infection 19. Between kids who need care and people like this. Seriously, do everything you can to make your life easier and rest more. You can figure out what to do with your partner when you feel better. Now, for the update. 3 days after my last update, things were still tough. I was still recovering from this awful illness, and my daughter was getting better, but we had a rough couple of days. My partner was finally feeling better too, but honestly, they had been so distant that it made everything worse. I was feeling all kinds of frustrated, to say the least. I just wanted some help around here, you know? My daughter was starting to come around though, so that was a relief. She was still low energy, but she was finally eating some food and not being cranky all the time. I just felt completely wiped out, like I couldn't even think straight. Then one day, my partner asked me to run some errands and pick up groceries while they relaxed at home. They said it so casually too, like it was nothing. I couldn't believe it. I was still struggling to do the most basic things, and they were asking me to go out and do all this stuff? Like, did they even care? Well, I went out to run the errands anyway, because I just wanted to get out of the house. I was tired of being stuck in there. So I'm at the store, trying to focus on what I needed to get, and I bump into a neighbor who casually mentions seeing my partner out with friends recently. My heart just dropped, you guys. I tried to brush it off and focus on what I was doing, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. When I got back home that evening, my partner returned late, saying they were busy with work. Yeah, right. I couldn't shake what the neighbor said. I noticed my partner's phone was buzzing with messages, but they were just ignoring them. I felt this knot in my stomach, like something was really off. The next day, I decided to check my partner's social media to see if anything was up. I never thought I'd be that person, but I was just so curious and felt like something was off. And oh my God, I found pictures of my partner at a local brewery with friends. The comments were questionable too, let's just say that. I confronted my partner about it, and they brushed it off like it was nothing. Just a normal outing with friends, they said. I could feel the frustration building inside me. I wanted to talk about it, but they were just so uninterested. They actually had the nerve to say I was overreacting. I couldn't believe it. A few days later, I went to a family dinner at my parents' house. My partner was invited, but they declined, saying they had work. At dinner, my mom could tell something was off with me. It's hard to hide things from your mom, you know? I overheard my brother Jake and his wife Rachel talking about how they prioritize their time together. I started feeling even more confused about everything. When I got home, my partner was on the couch, glued to their phone. I asked them directly about the recent outings and the messages, and they snapped back at me, saying I was being controlling and jealous. Then the argument escalated. They brought up how I had been sick and needed to stop being dramatic. Like, seriously? A week later, I finally connected with a therapist. I was so relieved to talk to someone who could help me sort through my feelings. They really helped me clarify my boundaries and what I wanted. My partner noticed my change in demeanor, but just dismissed it as a phase. They didn't even care to ask what was going on. I felt like I was seeing things more clearly now. So I decided to schedule a weekend trip with my daughter. We needed some time away from my partner, and I thought it would be good for us. When we returned, I found my partner throwing a small gathering with friends. The atmosphere felt so tense as I walked in, and my partner looked embarrassed to see me. It was just awkward. I decided to leave the gathering early, saying we needed space for the sake of my daughter. My partner tried to follow me, but I firmly stated that I needed to prioritize my own well-being. The next day, my partner texted me, asking to discuss things, but I was non-committal. I just didn't know what to say. They were getting more and more frustrated, and I could feel that a final confrontation was coming. It felt inevitable. They reacted defensively, saying that they weren't willing to change. I realized then that this just wasn't working. I decided to cut ties for good. I packed my daughter's things and prepared to stay at my parents' house. It felt like a big step, but I knew it was the right choice. I left a note for my partner explaining my decision. As I drove away, I felt this sense of finality. I knew I had made the right choice. Edit. After I left the note, my partner tried to reach out multiple times, but I didn't respond. I felt it was better to have space. My parents were supportive, and it felt good to be around family. I focused on settling into the new routine with my daughter. She had questions, of course, but I reassured her that everything would be okay. My brother Jake and his wife Rachel helped me a lot too. They even introduced me to some new friends in the area. It felt nice to have a support system. I'm still seeing the therapist, and it's been really helpful. I feel more confident now and ready for a fresh start. Am I the idiot for refusing to pretend I'm single for my friend's desperate vacation plans? My wife, a 46-year-old female, has a friend, a 42-year-old female, who is single. She would like to find a man to share her life with. Lately, this friend has been trying to convince my wife to join her on a singles vacation with the very obvious goal of trying to find a man. She's afraid to go alone and basically asks my wife to join her and, here's the point, act single too. At this point, my wife has been rejecting this idea. I heard her talk to her friend on the phone with very clear and healthy reasoning. First, she isn't single. Second, if her friend was lucky, the two of them would most likely be approached by at least two men. It would be my wife's job to basically entertain the other guy. Depending on the venue, that might evolve to be very awkward. For example, having a drink in a restaurant is a very different setting than dancing in a club. My wife told her friend that she's not going to do that because she's married. I was next to her during this phone call and told her she hit the nail on the head with that. So far, so good. But I know her friend very, very well, and she's not going to give up that easily. And I know my wife even better. At some point, she's going to feel she's letting her best friend down. So I'm not convinced that this is completely settled yet. To address the most likely question, do I trust my wife? Well, I trust her with my life and all that's dear when she's sober. Sadly, there has been an incident at a party we both attended where she got drunk. She started acting really inappropriately with other male guests, including some touching and even making fun of me in an intimacy context. That brought us close to divorce, to be frank. You see similar stories all over Reddit. So sadly, I don't really trust the not totally sober version of my wife. Another likely question: what if the roles were reversed? She would shut that conversation down right on the spot. I know that for a fact because at one point she asked me to take another single friend of hers to a festival that she didn't want to attend. And she told me afterward she felt really, really anxious about what might happen and really regretted asking me to take her friend along. For the record, it was a great night. Nothing happened because, in my eyes, my wife is the most beautiful and desirable woman in the world. Besides, there's another elephant in the room. My wife is a very kind, open, and inviting person. In my eyes, she looks great and has excellent taste in clothing. Her friend is far from being in the same league, so if they go on such a vacation, I have no doubt which of them would be hit on, which would most likely lead to her friend being hurt or disappointed. Some background. We have been married for 20 years, have 2 kids, and live in a nice house. Our marriage is stable, and we love each other. There have been some waves, though. Question: at what point do I make it clear to her that I'm having none of this? That this would be crossing a very important boundary of mine? This boundary being, you don't act single when you're married. That her giving in to her friend would very seriously jeopardize our marriage. Do I do this right now or later, when my wife might be inclined to give in? I'd rather not have this discussion, which basically does include trust, if my wife keeps rejecting her friend's request. Now for an update. We talked about it. Apparently, it's about a concern for safety. My wife is not considering giving in to her friend. I asked her to offer her friend a different option. Her friend creates a dating profile, and when she goes on a date, we will make sure to be in the same place so she can ask us to come to the rescue if needed. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. She already said no, so I don't think you need to start coming at her with ultimatums. How about, thank you for telling your friend no? That shows me how much you value our marriage, as it would devastate me if you wanted to do that. I'm so relieved that neither of us would do that to each other. Comment 2. Never put off a difficult conversation. I would just reiterate what she said about it not being appropriate for a married woman to be a wingman on a girl's trip, and you appreciate her putting her marriage first. She knows what the right thing is. Now for the update. I'm back with an update on my wife's friend and her annoying singles vacation plans. It's been a month since we last posted about this, and the situation is still going on. Lisa, my wife's friend, has not given up on this singles vacation idea. Lisa is 42 and single, and she just can't seem to find a man. She has been pushing my wife, Sarah, to go on this trip with her and pretend to be single too. Sarah is 46, happily married, and has no interest in pretending to be single. One day, while Sarah was at work, she got a message from Lisa. Lisa suggested that instead of the vacation, they go to a singles night at a local bar. Sarah was not interested, and she politely told Lisa that she was not going. Lisa didn't take no for an answer. She started sending late-night messages, trying to convince Sarah to change her mind. Sarah mentioned this to me one night while we were having dinner. I could see that this was bothering her, and I suggested that she block Lisa for a while. Sarah hesitated, but decided to mute Lisa's messages instead. She thought it was unnecessary to block her, and that might escalate things. A week later, Sarah got an invitation to a family gathering. This gathering was at her cousin's house, which is a cozy place with a nice backyard. Most of Sarah's extended family was there, including her sister and their parents. It was nice to see everyone again and catch up over dinner. Suddenly, Lisa showed up, uninvited. She claimed another cousin invited her. Sarah and I were surprised to see her there. Right after arriving, Lisa pulled Sarah aside to talk about the vacation, and I noticed the tension between them. Lisa would not let this go. She kept insisting that Sarah needed to be there for her. This is when I stepped in and reminded Lisa that Sarah was not available for her. We were married, and she was committed to our marriage. Lisa rolled her eyes and accused me of being controlling. A family friend overheard this and came over to support Sarah. Lisa got upset and raised her voice about feeling abandoned. It was quite a scene. After the gathering, Sarah and I talked about what had happened. We both agreed that Lisa's behavior was crossing a line and we needed to address it. The following week, Sarah decided to call Lisa to talk about their friendship. During the call, Lisa expressed her frustrations about her dating life and how she felt alone. Sarah suggested they meet in person to talk things over, and they arranged to meet at a coffee shop near Sarah's workplace. When they met, Lisa brought up feeling lonely and unsupported. She also mentioned that she had started seeing someone from her singles group. Then, Lisa made a sarcastic comment about Sarah's loyalty to her husband. This comment upset Sarah, but she tried to stay calm. After the coffee meeting, Lisa left feeling frustrated, but Sarah felt like they resolved some issues. A few days later, Sarah got another invitation to a family event. This time, it was a birthday party for her brother at a local restaurant. Guess who showed up there? Yep, Lisa. And she brought her new boyfriend. I could tell there was some tension between Sarah and Lisa's boyfriend. He made a few inappropriate jokes that made everyone uncomfortable. Sarah confronted him politely and told him that his jokes were not appropriate. I backed her up during this and told him that we didn't appreciate that kind of humor. After this, Lisa pulled Sarah aside and said she was irritated about how the whole situation unfolded. Sarah stood her ground and explained that she would not tolerate disrespect regardless of who it was. The evening ended with the family enjoying cake. Lisa left early, and we never really got a chance to talk about what happened. To answer a few questions, after the coffee meeting, Lisa claimed she was just feeling lonely, and that triggered her behavior. Sarah also mentioned that Lisa's boyfriend seemed nice at first, but his comments changed the tone of the evening. We did not formally address the situation at the birthday party since it was a family event, and we didn't want to escalate things further in front of everyone. Sarah is considering having a more serious conversation with Lisa soon. Despite everything, our communication has improved and we are handling this situation together as a team. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.